Hey, everybody, welcome to week 4. Last week, you had an opportunity to do a bit of pre-writing about what matters most to you when choosing a career or a major. And this week, you are writing the rough draft for this kind of combo career narrative / exploratory essay to help you sift through some of the ideas that you've been dealing with over the past couple of weeks. So I'm going to share our course page here, our week 4 overview page, because there are a few resources that I want to point out to you, and we'll talk a little bit more about the personal narrative rough draft. So we have a few readings here. Shitty First Drafts is a reading that I assign to every level of writing that I teach, especially when we come up to our first rough draft. And it is written by Anne Lamott, a published writer who also is a person who teaches people how to write, not only college students, but she also does writing workshops independently. And this is just kind of a witty and very frank exploration of the whole writing process, right? And how we have what's called the inner editor, which is really difficult to shut up sometimes when we sit down to compose a draft. So it's very normal, even for very knowledgeable, very established writers, professional writers, to struggle when it comes to drafting a piece of writing. So I highly recommend that you read this. It's a very enjoyable read, a very short read, and very relatable. The other one here is Organizing an Exploratory Essay. This is from Purdue OWL, which might be helpful if you're struggling with some organization issues when we approach this first essay. And then we also have Writing an Effective Narrative Introduction Canvas course page. I didn't have the link up for this last week, but I did add it today. So hopefully it should be visible to all of you. So things to keep in mind when you're writing your introduction is that you need to get your audience invested in what you're writing, right? So being able to capture their attention, sometimes we call this a hook or a lead. And there are various ways that you can do this. I'm not going to read through all of this because you're intelligent human beings and you can read it for yourselves. But in the introduction, we typically have that first sentence that grabs the attentions of the reader. And then we have a few sentences of development. Now, I don't want you to look at this as kind of formulaic, even though in parentheses, I give suggestions for how many sentences. You don't need to stick to a formula, right? Writing is more organic than that. But you do have some development in your introduction. You might need to provide a little bit of background information or describe a character or describe a setting. Especially in narrative writing, it's good to provide a little bit of backstory. So for example, in this type of essay where you're discussing either your major or your career, and what matters most, you're going to set the scene, so to speak, for your reader. You're going to provide a little background information. What is your motivation for writing about this in the first place, besides completing the assignment? Why does it matter? What does what you have to say matter, right? And then we often have a thesis statement. Now, the thesis statement doesn't always need to be contained in the introduction, but you have to think of the thesis statement as kind of being the controlling idea or the overall theme of what your writing is about. Things that you should avoid in your introduction, you can read through that list as well. I'm not going to enumerate them for you because this really should be more of a brief video. We also have a couple of lectures, or, well, not lectures. We have a couple of videos, right? They're not lectures. They're just short presentations that deal, again, with writing a thesis statement and writing introductions. So that is kind of the core skill that we are working on right now, trying to get a really good introduction so that your reader continues to be, right? You get the reader's interest, but they also continue to be interested. They want to read read more, right? They want to continue reading. Otherwise, what's the whole point of doing it, right? And the thesis statement, again, is that controlling idea. There are some optional materials down below. We have, again, I have a presentation on what is narrative, if you need to be reminded of that, although there's been lots of readings relating to that. There's also a couple of formatting videos if you need reminders for formatting in Microsoft Word and formatting in Google Docs. Lastly, I have a note at the bottom. We do have our embedded tutor, Cheyenne Riley. They are embedded, so they're dedicated to working with you and helping you with your writing. And there's a link down here how you can schedule time to work with our personal writing tutor. And Cheyenne set out an announcement towards the end of last week. So make sure that you take a look at the announcement and watch their introduction video or their welcome video. And there's also links here for UC Learning Commons if you're unable to coordinate a schedule with Shy, and also the Academic Writing Center at UC. So that's, the Learning Commons Academic Writing Center, highly recommend. It is free tutoring available not only for English, right? We have tutoring available for a variety of subjects that you might be taking this semester. And as I said before, we have that embedded tutor. So please make use of these services. It's really wonderful that we have these services available. So let's get down to the assignment that we are focusing on this week. This is the personal narrative rough draft. What matters most when choosing a major or career? The rough draft is due September 21st. We will have peer review due in the middle of the week on the 24th. That will be done digitally. And then we have a final revision due the following Sunday, September 28th. So again, it goes through purpose, skills, and knowledge, essentially reiterating what you've already kind of seen in the pre-writing exercise. You're going to have an introduction, body paragraphs, possibly 3, possibly more, right? And a conclusion. We're aiming for about 3 to 4 double-spaced pages, so roughly 800 to 1,000 words. And the criteria for success, of course, I'm looking for a depth of your reflection, clarity and coherence, use of examples. So any of the readings that you've had from class, I'd like you to try to support your points with some of those examples. Adherence to MLA format, and of course, grammar and style. Of course, grammar and style is just a small portion. Formatting and grammar are the smallest portions of your overall grade. Of course, submit your rough draft by the due date above. You really need to be mindful of the upcoming peer review, because we only have a small number of weeks to get all of this work done. It's really important that you try your very best to get your submissions in on time. The submissions are set for automatic assigned peer reviews. So once you have submitted your draft, you'll have a peer review assigned by Canvas. However, if you are delayed in your submission, which, in certain cases, this might be fine. If you're dealing with health things or computer issues, reach out to me and let me know so I can then go into Canvas, locate, make sure that you have submitted, and then manually assign a peer's paper for you to review. Otherwise, you'll miss out on that peer review aspect, and that wouldn't be good. So in order to participate in peer review, you have to submit your draft. It might be an incomplete draft. That's fine if you only get halfway through it. As long as we have something for which we can provide feedback, that is fine. But it needs to be submitted by the due date above. If you fail to submit that in a timely manner, you might not be able to participate in peer review or receive credit for it. So again, I know that there are some of you where you might have work or health issues or family issues or what have you. So just give me a heads up and say, hey, I need an extra day or I need an extra 2 days. As long as you get it into me before Wednesday when that peer review is due, we should be okay. So, and the reason I have peer review in the middle of the week is I want to be able to make sure students have feedback from peers as well as from me in enough time, right? So you have to give us enough time to complete the revision and implement the feedback that has been provided both from your instructor and from your classmates. So again, you can see the rubric down at the bottom. This will be the same rubric. This one doesn't have any points attached to it. You will get credit, full credit for submitting a draft, even if it's only halfway done. So when you're looking for your feedback from me, you not only want to look at the rubric, sometimes I will leave comments within the rubric. And you also want to be able to look at feedback within your document. So if you're not sure how to do that, I usually send out a link to a video that explains how you can access instructor and peer feedback so that you know what sorts of things have been suggested for revision. If you aren't clear on that, please reach out to me and I will make sure that you get the resources that you need. So that is it for week 4. And I'm looking forward to reading your essays. I've been taking a look at the things that have been going on in discussions and the shorter writing assignments. So I'm really excited about this first slightly longer essay. And for some of you, it may be kind of a repeat, or you feel like you're doing the same thing that you did for the introductory essay. I apologize for that, but you'll go, of course, a little bit more in depth in this slightly longer essay. All right, so that's all I have for you this week. Take care and have a fantastic week. Bye-bye, everybody.